listener. My name is Rose Goldthorpe, and I am one of the writers and producers of this audio drama. I would like to welcome you to the 4th season of the Wessex dramas, namely The Well-Beloved. Written by Thomas Hardy, of course. This is the first season in our seaside trilogy of Hardy novels, a romance set on the island of Portland, or as Hardy liked to call it, and as it was called, the Isle of Slingers. Still haven't fully figured that one out yet, maybe because they have a lot of pebbles? Anyway, we started filming the second and third of our Thomas Hardy short films, cue panicking, flailing and filming. Why did I decide to film on Weymouth Beach in summer? The tourists, unfortunately, do not look very historical. So anyway, while I organise chaos, let's take a little break, put our feet on the fender, and catch up with this rather vague artist's unfortunate love life.
The front drive of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn arrives in his hired governor's cart driven by a tatty local driver. He gets down and fetches his 2 bags from the back of the cart and goes to unlock the door. Another bigger cart and his valet Budgeons then also arrive. Jocelyn looks over to him as the 2 drivers start unloading the bags, boxes and easels.
Budgeons, can you get the rest of the bags from my cart, please?
Budgeons nods and hurries across to help, while Jocelyn unlocks and enters his old home. A Fortune's Well Ginnel on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn is coming down the Ginnel carrying a brown paper parcel. A young woman of around 19 years old comes towards him. She has auburn hair and green eyes. She is dressed as one of the local people with a dark sea green gown and apron. She wears a small jaunty boater on the back of her head with her hair braided behind and a black ribbon at the end. Jocelyn is taken by her beauty. The young woman, who is juggling several parcels, drops 2 and Jocelyn picks them up for her. They start talking. A beach on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn is walking his new small dog along the beach on a lead and talking to it. He comes across some fishwives having an argument while gutting and salting. The argument gets fierce and ends up with one of the younger fishwives screaming at the other and threatening her with a knife. The other women hold her back, and an older woman in her early 60s tells the younger woman off for her aggression. As Jocelyn walks nearer in his parallel walk, the older woman in her early 60s leaves the group and comes up to him. She smiles and holds out her hand.
Jocelyn, I think.
Avis slowly shakes her head.
That was a long time ago, Jocelyn.
She shrugs.
I'm well. I suppose you know that my daughter married?
Avis smiles.
Yes, we are all well, Jocelyn. Oh, do drop round one evening if you want a cup of tea and a chat. Oh, don't worry. I've forgiven you for chasing my daughter after jilting me.
She looks provokingly at him, moves back to the group. He stands there until the group all start to chat and point at him, when he realises that they are discussing him and hastily walks on with his dog. The garden of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn is seated sketching the newly met Avis III onto a canvas on his easel. Avis III is standing with her hands on her hips in a fisherwoman's rough dress with bare legs showing under her kilting. She looks sturdily at the artist.
So, another Avis, eh?
He looks at her in the late afternoon light as the sun glints off her auburn hair.
Well, you have to admit, there are hundreds of you on this island.
Avis reflects, smiles and nods. She sighs.
No, my pretty muse. Nearly finished. I shall give you that £1 as promised as well.
He sketches on. After a while...
Avis, who is your mother?
Jocelyn stops sketching and saucers his eyes.
Yep. This was inevitable. 3 Avises for my well-beloved.
He slowly shakes his head. Jocelyn looks up from his canvas.
Yes, of course. Thank you for this, Avis. Here, your fee.
She comes forwards and takes the money. She hurries off, and Jocelyn looks after her, musing and shaking his head disbelievingly. It's Chesil Beach, and it's daytime. Jocelyn with his dog walks past 4 fisherwomen gutting and salting mackerel. 2 of them are Avis II and Avis III. Their hair is tied up in bonnets and their skirts in kilted drapes. Avis II is reprimanding her daughter over sloppy work. As Jocelyn and his dog go to pass, Avis II looks up at him and calls over.
Good morning, Jocelyn. I heard as you were back on slingers from my daughter. You here to stay then?
Jocelyn nods and smiles.
Well, drop in for tea then, huh? My house is in nigh me mam's and you know where that is.
She smiles, nods and returns to her salting. Avis III looks up and grins at him. Jocelyn smiles at her and walks away. He bends, picks up a stick and throws it for the dog, which races away. The studio of Jocelyn's house. It's daytime. Jocelyn is sculpting a full-size statue of a classical woman, which has now arisen to just above bust height, but still has no head, just the rest of the stone block. Jocelyn keeps standing back and looking at it. He is dissatisfied with it. He blows out his cheeks and shakes his head despondently. A Portland beach, and it's daytime. Jocelyn is walking along the beach with his dog when he sees 4 lerrets all being launched into the water with a couple of men in each along with their nets. The 4 lerrets pull away. Jocelyn looks rueful and muses.
Providing for their families. Unlike me.
The 4 boats row hard away, and he watches them as the sun glitters on the water and the gulls scream. The garden of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Avis III is standing looking at the horizon sideways while Jocelyn sketches her.
You know, I did ask you to wear your work clothes, Avis, because I'm painting you as a fisher girl. Well, take your hat off then and shake your hair.
She complies, and Jocelyn sees his well-beloved in her face and the sun on her auburn hair. He smiles at her free beauty. He paints on. A quarry on Portland. It's daytime. Jocelyn is in one of the quarries alone. He is examining the stone with his lamp. He runs his finger over the ammonites and imagines his well-beloved clad in animal skins standing amongst the tropical greenery and beckoning to him to follow in a lively manner. There's the distant roar of Paleolithic big animals. He pushes his way through the foliage to follow her and finds her with his back to him, reaching her arms up in adoration and looking up a rock face covered with snaking vines. There is a carved image of a fat Earth Mother goddess sitting on the top. The studio of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn is setting up his easel and looking towards the door when it opens and Avis III walks in. She looks downcast. Avis walks towards the podium and sadly removes her hat, which she drops on a nearby chair. Jocelyn regards her with surprise.
Hello, Avis. I thought you weren't going to come after you missed our last sitting.
Avis starts to put on the fisherwoman's bonnet, which she has brought with her. She suddenly lets the bonnet fall and sobs.
You're right, Avis.
Suddenly, Avis bawls out loud and throws her apron over her head. She plonks herself down to sit on the podium whilst wailing. Jocelyn rushes up to Avis and pats her concernedly on the shoulder.
Poor Avis. What is it, my dear? What is it?
Avis sobs through her apron.
Is it, a child? What's wrong with that?
Jocelyn is very concerned. He walks over to the drinks tray and pours her a small port. Jocelyn comes back and gently removes Avis's apron from over her head.
Look. Drink this, Avis.
Avis looks up, takes the glass, and obediently sips it a little, while sobbing and wiping her nose on her hand. Jocelyn gives her his handkerchief, which she uses loudly.
Please, stop crying. I can't think.
Jocelyn starts to pace.
Drink and be quiet.
Avis III complies while sniffing. Jocelyn suddenly appears to have an idea, slows down and nods to himself. He helps the girl up, takes her glass off her and gives her her hat. Jocelyn walks her toward the door with his arm around her shoulders.
Look, come to me the day after tomorrow. I may be able to help. Don't say anything to your mother, though, in the meantime, eh?
She looks hopeful.
Yes, I really hope so, anyway.
Avis wipes her tear-stained face and nods. She hurries away, sniffing. A craggy area, and it's daytime. Jocelyn is walking up and down a stony, quarried-out area in the countryside. He is thinking hard. The solicitor's office on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn's solicitor is sitting at his desk across from Jocelyn. He leans forward a little.
So, you want that Eastern cottage bought and the rest of that sum paid into an annuity?
In the name I said.
In hers, not his.
Yes. Thank you.
The solicitor stands up, expressing a rueful surprise in his face. Jocelyn stands also.
Well, Mr. Pierston, this is an awfully large amount, but...
I can easily afford it and want it done. Immediately, please, if possible.
The solicitor shakes Jocelyn's hand and sees him to the door. The solicitor smiles and nods.
I'll put it in hand today.
Jocelyn smiles.
Thank you. Thanks.
He leaves. The garden of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Budgeons brings out some tea on a tray, and Jocelyn pours while Avis III sits watching him. Budgeons retires.
What? A house? And some money? To marry William?
Yes. The cottage and the annuity are only granted on condition that you marry William, and that the money is only paid to your own sole bank account.
My own?
Yes. So that if your William turns out a bad un, he can't have your income, as it will only be paid to you. The house is yours only, as well.
Jocelyn hands her her cup, which she takes. Avis, holding her cup and saucer, sits back in her chair in surprise.
To me?
Jocelyn gestures at Avis's tea.
Yes, my little muse. Now drink it before it gets cold.
Avis shakes her head musingly.
She'll kill me. She won't let me have it.
Jocelyn sits back in his chair with his teacup and laughs.
Oh, I think she will, though. Avis isn't such a fool as to look this gift horse in the mouth.
Avis looks up.
A horse?
He rolls his eyes and smiles at her.
Just drink up.
Avis obediently drinks her tea. On Chesil Beach, it's daytime. It's raining and Jocelyn is hurrying home with his dog. He is approaching a leret on his parallel walk when one of the two men pulling it onto the shore hails him. Jocelyn pulls up his collar some more and walks a little way towards the young man. He looks interrogatively towards this young man, William, who is hurrying towards him.
Sir, Mr. Pierston, sir.
He hurries up to Jocelyn and thrusts out his hand, which Jocelyn takes.
I just wanted to say thank you for your dowrying my Avis, sir.
Jocelyn shakes his head embarrassedly.
No, it's nothing. I owe her and hers a lot more than that. She's a good girl.
She be that, sir. She be that. She be that. She be the love of my life, and I shall make her happy in that little cottage of hers for the whole of her life as well.
Jocelyn turns to go.
Well, I hardly think that the Coopers can object to you now, when she is so set up, William.
Jim tugs his cap at Jocelyn.
No, sir, I hardly think of them's can now. Thank ye, sir, thank ye.
Jim hurries away.
Oh, it's nothing. Nothing. My pleasure.
The rain is now pelting down and Jocelyn bends to release the dog's lead and the two of them half run away, seeking shelter in Fortune's Well. The kitchen of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn puts the kettle on the range and then pours a paper of headache powder into a glass, which he stirs while coughing. As he drinks the solution and rubs his headache gingerly, he sees through the window Avis II talking to Budgeons, who is chopping some wood. Jocelyn quickly gets out a teapot and puts it on a tray along with 2 cups and saucers, a milk jug and a sugar bowl. He is just looking in a drawer for some teaspoons when Avis knocks on the door. Jocelyn hurriedly opens it and Avis II comes in. She smiles and shyly pecks him on the cheek.
Hello, Jocelyn. Listen, you can't just go give...
Jocelyn indicates.
Please, but my daughter can't possibly...
Jocelyn indicates a cut seed cake on the side, half wrapped in greaseproof paper.
Nice, but my mother and I don't think that...
He firmly indicates the connecting door and coughs some more. Avis, silenced and a little uncomfortable because checkmated in her first approach, finally takes off her bonnet, sighs and goes on through. The sitting room of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. The rain is thundering down outside and Jocelyn is listlessly sitting, sniffing in a chair and trying to read a book by the fire with a blanket over his knees and a scarf around his head. Budgeons comes through and gives Jocelyn a cup of tea, which the latter accepts gratefully.
I think that you should be in bed, sir, not sitting up in this draughty sitting room. You've had this cold for over a week now, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
Jocelyn smiles weakly up at him.
With the exception that I don't know the first thing about nursing, sir.
Budgeons gives an anxious, conditional nod and departs. The studio of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn, well wrapped up and sniffing, tries to do a little chipping at his large, well-beloved statue. He keeps having to break off to sneeze, find a hanky to blow his nose, wipe his runny eyes, and then have a coughing fit. He finally puts his hand on his burning head, breathes heavily, and walks out of the studio. The bedroom of Jocelyn's house on the Isle of Slingers. It's daytime. Jocelyn is in bed. He is on his side, half awake and sniffing, wearing a woolly cap. There is a basket of soggy hankies on the floor next to him and several on the bedside table, as well as the usual sick-room detritus of glasses, spoons, empty powder papers and a book. There are clothes draped around the place. Budgeons knocks softly and puts his head around the door.
Miss Avis Cooper is downstairs and has come to invite you to her wedding, sir.
Jocelyn waves weakly.
Thank you.
I told her that you were too ill to go anywhere for the next few weeks, sir.
Thank you.
Jocelyn turns over in bed and Budgeons goes out.
That was an episode of The Well Beloved. I would like to thank our editor, Liam McArthur, for his fabulous skill and ear for detail, and also saintly patience. I'd also like to thank our amazing cast, Alban O'Brien, Peter Allison, Scott Munrow, Annalina Gaggiano, Caro Joy, Olivia Watson, Robin Lee, Izzy Joy, James Heseltine, John Simpson, Catherine Dyer, Mark Joy, Tony Lee, and John Seal. You can find us on YouTube under Rose Goldthorpe Films. We are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and theoretically we should be on Apple Podcasts, but honestly, at this point, I don't know. Do tell me if you find out. The Thomas Hardy Society website, of course, and our website, which has been renamed to the Wessex Dramas, just for those of you folks that can't spell Daily Dilettante, like me, cough. The Wessex Dramas website. If you want more updates on what's going on, follow Rose Goldthorpe on Instagram and Facebook, or sign up for our newsletter. Again, there's a newsletter from Rose Goldthorpe Films or the Wessex Dramas. They're slightly different for each, I think. Anyway, thank you again so much for all of your hard work, support, and kindness. See you next episode.